welcome to Monday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where we've got a debut on the channel today for the constructor Superrabbit and their puzzle called Aqre Sudoku, in which I'm very pleased to report I have 9 given digits. I've read the rules as well, and this is, well, it's clearly, given its title, it's called Aqre Sudoku. It's got a lot of similarities with the logic puzzle invented by Eric Fox. Eric, of course, some of you will know, is one of the grand masters of our Discord server, a moderator over there, and a young constructor of such amazing ability. And he came up with Aqre a few years ago, and I have done some Aqre puzzles, but not, I don't think, in the context of a Sudoku, although there is a vague bell ringing in the back of my brain. Now, what I don't know is how hard this puzzle is. I'm afraid I've been given no ideas about that at all, so you will have to judge it from the length of the video. But I've got a bit of news before I reach the rules. The first is this: we have reached 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. There are two ways we're celebrating. One, you can get our book for a discount at the moment. The discount code's in the video description. 2, and this is the big news for today, we have released a completely free app. It should be available now on Android App Store and Steam today. I know for a fact it's available on Android because somebody tweeted about it earlier on. It features 23 puzzles, no less, by the great and the good of the Sudoku community. It is, and I have to say this, it is an exceptional collection of puzzles. It is by far and away the best collection of free puzzles available on the internet in app form. You will be stunned. I mean, I'm just thinking now about some of the puzzles I've tested over the last few weeks. There's a classic Sudoku by Shy, which is just, it's so clever. It's so clever. There's stuff by Fistamafel that will make your jaw drop. And, you know, I'm doing a disservice to 21 other constructors by mentioning those two, but their puzzles are, they've all put so much love and attention into these. Do get it. It's free. The way to get it, just go to your app store, type in Cracking the Cryptic. You should find our free app there. Download that. It's totally free. And then you can get the 500,000 pack. Download that. That's free. And that's what you're looking for. Absolutely quality stuff. And a big thank you, obviously, to all of you for getting us to this milestone. We never thought we'd get there, and we thought this was a really appropriate way to say thank you and to celebrate. So we really hope you enjoy it. Do let us know what your feedback is, and we'll try and pass on that feedback to the constructors, obviously. Now, other than that, I've got some birthdays. Now, I have to catch up on a few birthdays as well, because I was on holiday for the last week or so, and I didn't do the birthdays while I was on holiday. Apologies for that, but let me say a very happy belated birthday. We'll start with Alex Vallejo, and that's from your girlfriend Fiona. And Fiona also sent us, Alex, your album on Spotify, which I listened to some of, and it reminded me of an album by Joe Satriani called The Extremist. So I hope that's the sort of vibe you're looking for. But yeah, check out Alex Vallejo on Spotify if you like that sort of guitar sound. Happy birthday to G from your partner Callum. I think your birthday was on the 17th of August, G, so I'm very late. I'm very sorry about that. Tony on the 19th of August from your partner Emma. Ty, you turned 20 on the 19th of August from your fiancée Charlotte. Now, Kim, it was your birthday yesterday, and your husband Alex asked for a shout out for you, but Alex only sent me that request, I think, at something like 6 o'clock yesterday evening. So that proved I couldn't do the shout out yesterday. So I hope it's all right that I'm a day late, and that you had obviously a lot of cake yesterday. Now, Andrew Phelan, you turned 6, I think, on the 13th of August. I mean, Andrew, that you're watching these videos and understanding them, that is, I mean, it's just extraordinary. Your mum, dad and sister Hope are so proud of you, as indeed am I. So that is fantastic. I think you're in St. Catharines in Canada. I hope I've got that right. Sebastian, it's your birthday today, and your fiancée Heather let us know this. And finally, Fishy Soir, 18th of August was your birthday, and your friend Jessa told us that. So there you go. I'm fully caught up now on birthdays, I think. And I should read you the rules of Aqre Sudoku. Oh, by the way, some of you are asking what's going on Patreon. We are coming up, obviously, to the end of August. We have got something planned at the start of September. We're going to be tending towards the easier end again. So if you really enjoyed August's reward, which we tried to make fairly approachable for everybody, you'll love September's too. That's over on Patreon. Now, the rules of Aqre Sudoku by Superrabbit are as follows. Normal Sudoku rules apply. Shade some cells so that all shaded cells form one orthogonally connected area. Quick reminder, what does orthogonally connected mean? It means sharing an edge. So those two cells are orthogonally connected. These two cells are not orthogonally connected. They only touch each other at a point. That is not an orthogonal connection. So we've got to make sure all the shaded cells form one orthogonally connected area. The given digits show how many shaded cells are in that 3x3 box. So there are 7 in that one. 6, so that means 6 of those cells have to be shaded. 5 of these cells have to be shaded. Now here's the Aqre rule. There must not be a run of more than 3 consecutive shaded or unshaded cells horizontally or vertically anywhere in the grid. So let's just stop there and check we understand that. So let's imagine in this central box those cells were shaded. I'll use grey for shaded. Now that would mean that none of those cells could now be shaded cells, because if any of these 4 cells were shaded, let's pick this one, you can see that that's 4 in a row, and you're not allowed to do 4 shaded cells in a row. So you'd have to make all of those unshaded. And then say you made that one unshaded, now you would have to make these 2 unshaded in order to make sure you don't get 4 greens vertically in a row. So it's quite an interesting rule, this. It's sort of the opposite of Connect 4, if you've ever played that game, which I used to play a lot of when I was younger. A game you can play on paper, by the way, believe me, when I was doing my accountancy exams, oh yes, did I play a lot of Connect 4 on paper. Anyway, that's by the by. What are the remaining rules? The digits in shaded cells must be greater than those in orthogonally adjacent unshaded cells. So if that was a shaded cell and this was an unshaded cell, this would have to be less than 5. So it's like a fortress rule. Have you ever done fortress Sudoku, which is a type of variant? I think that this is the same as that. Basically, we just make sure that any shaded cell is greater than an unshaded neighbour, an orthogonally adjacent neighbour at that. And that should be what we need to do. So, okay, so we're juggling a few different rules here, aren't we? Let me just think about this and get it in my head. So we're juggling normal Sudoku, an orthogonally connected rule. We need to make sure everything shaded in the grid is orthogonally connected. We've got the anti-Connect 4 rule, and we've got the fortress rule. So all those 4 things put together should lead to a unique solution to this puzzle. I'm now thinking this might be quite hard, actually, and Superrabbit's debut is going to be a long video. We shall see. Do have a go at the puzzle. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. But now I get to play. Let's get cracking. And we shall get cracking by thinking about Sudoku. There must be a 5 in one of those cells by Sudoku. There must be... No, I'm not going to pencil mark that. 5 in one of these 3. No, it's not going to be Sudoku, is it? It's going to be something to do with funny anti-Connect 4 rules. Let's just think about this central 7 then. So, well, I can see that because there's going to be 2 unshaded cells in this box, and there are effectively 3 columns and 3 rows in this box, there's going to have to be a run of 3 somewhere in this box, both horizontally and vertically. Let's just imagine it's that. Let's say that's a run of 3 shaded cells, and then we had an unshaded here and an unshaded there, or something like that. Then we would know so we know for sure, but we don't know where it is. There's going to be 2 unshaded cells spanning the central box. at least, depending on whether... okay, sorry. No, I'm changing my mind about this. I'm not sure this is where we start, because the problem with any box in this puzzle is that we can't force anything from it, because until we know where the runs of 3s are in the box, you know, it's runs of 4s that are things we have to avoid, not runs of 3s. So any 3x3 box in and of itself is probably not what we have to think about. So maybe we have to think about low numbers. Well, okay, I can do one thing with this one number, and that's from the connection rule, because there's one shaded cell in this box, but that shaded cell must connect to all the other shaded cells in the puzzle. I'm not going to be able to hide the shaded cell in any of those 4 cells, because then it'll be just surrounded by unshaded cells and it will never touch its friends. And we definitely want the grey cell in this box to touch its friends, so it's going to have to be in one of those cells. So those cells are unshaded. Okay, so as there's only one shaded cell in this box, we're going to have... Let's imagine this was the shaded cell. Then this, and this would all be unshaded, and that's making lots of opportunities. Look, for 4 in a row. We'd have to stop a 4 in a row here. We'd have to stop a 4 in a row in both of those cells by putting shaded cells in. But I don't think, at least, I know... So I know there's going to be some shaded cells in these dominoes. Oh, right, I tell you one thing you can't do, and that's make this the shaded cell. Because if that's the shaded cell, it's going to be next to unshaded cells in these 2 positions, and those cells cannot be zeros. So this cell would not be greater than its unshaded neighbours, and that's against the rules. So that's green, which puts no pressure on this digit, does it? This now can be shaded or unshaded, I think. Oh, this is complicated. It's quite difficult. Okay. So where... I've got nothing. I've got to think about this box, so that perhaps there is a way we can tell which of these 4 cells is shaded. Let's just think about this again. So if that's shaded, all these 3 are unshaded. Ah, right. Oh, that's very beautiful. Good grief. Right, I didn't understand that until I actually just tried to put it in. But I think we can do that. I'm going to claim I can do that. All of those, well, those 2 dominoes are entirely shaded. Now here's the reason why. Wherever the shaded cell goes in these 4 cells, it has to escape from this box, but it can't escape. The only way it can escape is to go directly out of the box, because if that's shaded, obviously this is unshaded now because there's only one shaded in the box, so its only route out is to take a direct step, which forces this to be shaded. But of course, as all these other 3 are also shaded and they create runs of 3s in a row, you're going to have shade, shade and shade there by the no 4 in a row rule. And by the connectivity rule, you're going to have to shade this as well. And that logic must hold for any of these 4 cells. That's really lovely. So those 4 all get shaded, and we still don't know which of these is actually the shaded cell. So, I wonder if Eric's done this puzzle. I'd love to know if you're sort of an expert in Aqre logic. And Eric, being the inventor of the puzzle, is an expert, whether this puzzle just flows for people like that. So, do we know now about Well, it's not possible that both of those are shaded, because that's going to make a run of 4. So one of these must be unshaded. Yes, okay, I see. Right, so what I was thinking is, there's four in a row there. If these were both shaded, it's broken. Now, that means at least one of these is unshaded. Now, this definitely, therefore, can't be shaded, because if that's shaded, to avoid 4 in a row, I've got to make that unshaded, and that breaks the fortress rule, because this 4 is less than its unshaded neighbour. I tell you what's clever about this puzzle so far, is that you have to use all the rules to make any progress at all. So this is unshaded, but that doesn't tell us what this is, does it? Now, can that be, if that's shaded, that's unshaded. But if that's shaded, it is greater than its neighbour. The 4 is greater than the 1, so that's fine. Okay, right. So in this column, if both of these were unshaded, I'd have 4 unshadeds in a row, and that's against the rules. So one of these is shaded. Now, if one of these is shaded, it is the one shaded cell in box 1. So these are unshaded. And therefore this is shaded to avoid 3 in a row. This way, this is quality. And now this is 3 in a row, so that's now unshaded. So one of these is shaded and one of these is unshaded. This 7, that's a surprising digit actually, to be in an unshaded cell. Because one of these cells, in fact that one, look, this has to be greater than its unshaded neighbour, so that's got to be an 8 or a 9. But also, in this box, I've got one unshaded cell at the moment. I can only have one more unshaded cell in this whole box, because there are 7 shaded cells. So one of these has got to be shaded, at least, and that will have to be an 8 or a 9. So if it was here, if this was shaded, then I'd have an 8-9 pair in column 4. So why does this have to be shaded? If this is unshaded, then the whole of the rest of this box is shaded. And that would make all of these cells unshaded. This is really complicated. Oh, that doesn't work. I can't. Okay, these two cells can't be both be. These two can't both be unshaded. This 4, actually, that's interesting. How could this cell be shaded? That's what I'm wondering about. If that cell is shaded, how do these two cells get out of box 4? Because they have to get out, because they're not connected to these, for example, and we know that the shaded cells form one area. So I think, obviously I've only got one more shaded cell to add if I put this one shaded, and it won't connect to these orthogonally. So that is unshaded. Now if that's unshaded, that's shaded, because otherwise I've got 4 in a row again. And now the only way that this gets out, given I've got one more shaded cell to put into this box, is via that cell. So that's shaded. All of these are unshaded. That's shaded to avoid 4 greens in a row. That's shaded to get this out. Oh, I was about to make this unshaded on the basis that I had to get the unshaded cells out. But that's not true, is it? I think the rule said that shade some cells so that all shaded cells form one orthogonally connected area. Okay, so I don't have to also get the greens to connect to each other, which obviously would already be impossible, actually. It would already be impossible to simultaneously connect the greens to each other and the greys, because in connecting these greys to here, you can see you're always isolating these greens from these greens. Why is my phone running? I don't, that's fine. It's only O2 getting cross with me about something. Never mind. Now this is shaded, so this says fortressified. That's got to be higher than 7. So that is 8 or 9. And now I've got an 8-9 pair in column 4. And that is useful. Why? I've just how could I not see that? I'm so bad at spotting this. But look, those are 3 in a row, so that's got to be unshaded. And if that's unshaded, that's the second unshaded cell in this box. But that means the whole of the rest of this box has to be shaded to get to a count of 7 shadeds. That would have been a very easy way of proving the rule that the greens don't all have to connect to each other, because we've now made an island of green in the middle of the grid. Now, that's got to be an 8 or a 9. That's next to a 7, and it must be higher than it. So there's an 8-9 pair here. Does this have to be a 1? I want that to be a 1. It's got to be less than all its orthogonal neighbours. Well, I suppose those... I'm not sure, actually. Maybe it doesn't have to be a 1. Right, but I've got some 3 in a rows to deal with, haven't I? So this is 3 in a row, so that needs to be green. This is 3 in a row, so both sides there need to be green. That's always the sort of pattern you wanted in Connect 4, with an open on both sides of it, if it was horizontal, because then you've won. But that's by the by. Okay. So now I've got some greens here, here, and here, but these don't look very... I suppose they might be interesting from the fortress rule perspective. No. Well, maybe, but not in a way that I'm immediately understanding. 5 here. Right, so I've got to get this to connect. Well, it could connect here, couldn't it, to the rest of the grey, or it could connect out here. Right, I'm going to claim this cell is grey for the following reason. Imagine this cell wasn't grey. Then to get this string of 3 greys to connect to the rest of the grid with only 5 cells to play with, I'm going to have to make a run like this or a run like this. But either way, I then get scuppered, because that's 3 in a row, so I'm going to have to make this green. So I'd never get this out. The same is obviously true if that's grey. This would have to be green, and it never gets out. So I think that means this cell is how this grey connects to the rest of the greys. So that's grey. But the weird thing about that is it doesn't tell me where the final grey goes. Oh, 5 by Sudoku in the middle box. Where is it? One of those 2 cells. So 5 is in one of these 2 cells. Now, 5 in a grey, so it has to be next to lower digits. So whichever one of these is 5, it has to have a 2, 3 or a 4 above it here. And if that was a 5, this would... oh, that could be a 1. Okay. I've got a horrible feeling I'm getting stuck here. I tell you what though, Superrabbit, this is a brilliant, well, it's brilliantly original, and it's very clever so far. This is a heck of a debut. What am I meant to do now? I have not got a clue. It's a problem when you do totally new types of puzzles. You have I have no intuition about where I'm meant to be looking. I'm like looking at this saying don't make a 2x2 of grey, because I was doing yin-yang puzzles the other day, and obviously you can't have a 2x2 in yin-yang. But here I think there's probably nothing wrong with that being grey. I've got to put... Is there some way that I know how, I know the colours of this 2x2? There probably is, but I don't know what it is. Maybe it would help if I knew which of these was grey. How do I know which of these is grey? I don't know. What on earth am I meant to do here? Is there something we know about the middle box? We know... Do I know what this digit is? I wanted this to be a 1, didn't I? But no, the problem is I don't know what those digits are. Oh, no, right, okay. I'm asking the wrong question here. I'm asking what this digit could be. That's not the right question. The correct question is, where do you put 1 in this box? That's the correct question. Because if you don't put 1 here, where do you put it? And any other cell you put it in is orthogonally next to a green cell. Either this green cell, or this green cell, or one of these green cells, or this green cell. And that's impossible, because 1 can never... It's like again, it's this fortress rule. You can never put 1 in a grey cell, because you'd have to put 0 in the adjacent green cell. So the only actual home for 1 in the middle box is there. So it wasn't a case of wondering whether these cells could be, or what these cells could be. It's simply asking where to put the low digit. Right, okay, so now I'm wondering where 1 goes in this box. Because again, I can't put it in anything that connects orthogonally to a green cell. So 1 has to go in one of these 2 cells. Which means it has to be in one of those 3 cells. The thing is, that does nothing. It does nothing. Oh no! Oh no, come on. 6? No. 2. Oh, I see. Right, good grief. Okay, let's look at the middle box. Because now this little 2x2 is filled with 1, 7, 8 and 9 in some order. Which means the rest of the box is filled with 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 in some order. But look at this column. Yeah, that string of digits there, they all have to be 6 or lower, I think. I think that must be right. Let's do I want to pencil mark the whole box or just the... let's just look at these cells. So just from a pure Sudoku perspective, they have to be 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. In fact, they can't be... Oh, they can't be 5. So just 2, 3, 4 and 6. But the thing I was noticing is that this cell is orthogonally next to quite a low number, therefore. So it cannot be higher than 6. It can't actually be 5 either. So even if that was a 6, this would have to be a 4 at maximum. So that's 2, 3, 4, or no, it's not 1. So this is 2, 3, or 4. But the same is true of this cell. Even if this is the highest it can possibly be, this has to be lower than 6. And it can't be 5. So that's 1, 2, 3, or 4, I think. Oh, so now look at this column again and study it a bit harder, because actually this is a 2, 3, 4, 6 quadruple, which means that cell can't be 2, 3 or 4 and is a 1. That is so strange. So these digits have got to be 7s, 8s and 9s. That's not 7. And that is presumably very important for any number of good reasons that I can't figure out. 1 has to be up here. That feels awkward, because that's a 1 in a grey cell, which I don't want to do that. Ooh. Wow, okay. Okay, that's very interesting. Which one of these is 1? I don't know. But let's just imagine it's this one. What's the implication of that? How do we stop that breaking the puzzle? Well, this 1 cannot be next to a green cell orthogonally, because if it is, that green cell would need to contain a digit lower than 1. So if this is a 1, that cell has to be grey and that cell has to be grey. And if this is a 1, that cell has to be grey and that cell has to be grey. And that means that the final grey in box 2 is in one of those 2 cells, which means these 2 cells have to be green. Is it one of these? No, and it must be exactly one of these, because it can't be 2 of these, because that would make this count wrong. So this is another grey-green domino, along with this being a grey-green domino. We don't know whether this is 1 yet. Ah, but if that's... Well, if this is grey, it's got to be massive, hasn't it? Because it's got to be higher than this green cell that would be next to it. I guess it could be... Ah, no, hang on. No, maybe it could still work. I think if this is grey, this has to be 7. Because this would have to be higher than this digit, so it would have to be 8 or 9, which would create an 8-9 pair and make this a 7. Okay, so what does this mean? And the answer to that is not very much. So well, okay. So these are 2, 3, 4. Ah, okay, so the 6 in this quadruple is definitely in those cells, isn't it? Ah, so there's a 6 up here as well. By Sudoku, 6, 6, there's got to be a 6 in this domino. So that's a 1-6 pair. So one of these is a 1, flanked by greys on both sides. The other is a 6. If that was the 6, it would have greens on both sides that would have to be lower than 6. Oh, that's actually fine, isn't it? That's not really that difficult. Okay. So, hang on, how can that be green? No, that cannot be green, because this cannot be greater than 6, because 7, 8 and 9 are unavailable. That is grey, but it's not giving us 3 in a row. It's only 2 in a row, so we can't do any connect 4 nonsense on that, I don't think. I was wondering about those cells, because these cells have to be from 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So again, these cells have to be lower than 6. Oh yeah, okay, and 6 is in one of these, isn't it? So these squares are 2, 3, 4 or 5. So this cell can't even, so this can't be 6, so this can't be 5, which means this cell is low. It's very low. Because even if that's 5, this cell has to be 4 or lower, and it can't be 4, that's a 2 or a 3. And that cell Yeah, I think there's a similar thing to here going on here. It's amazingly powerful, this constraint. So what's this digit then? Even if that's 6, this has to then be 5 or lower, and it can't be 5. So this is 4 or lower. So it's 4, 2, 3, or 1. It's not 1 apparently. So it's 2, 3, or 4. So now, if we look at this string of digits, isn't it a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quintuple, I think. It just is, isn't it? It's a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quintuple. So that means where's the 6 in this quintuple? It's got to be there. That's amazing. That's just amazing. So there's sort of it's the combination of the fact that the 6 in this column has to be in these cells, and therefore you can't have 6 here, and you can't have 6 in the greens. That forces the 6 into the sort of corner cell of this box. So now, what does that mean? So this is right. So now this is under more pressure, because this digit has to be lower than right. This digit cannot be a 2, because that can't be a 1, and this digit can't be a 4, because this can't be higher than 4. So this is 2 or 3. This is 3 or 4, and it's not 4. That's a 3. So this is a 2. So this is a 4. Now 3, 4 here means these squares are exactly equal to 2 and 5, which means that's not 2, and that is a 3. So this is a 4. Oh, this is so beautiful. Good grief. And this 3 has to be lower than that digit. So that's a 5. That's a 2. 2, 2. There's a 2 down here. Oh, in fact, look. We actually know what's down here. This is a 2, 3, 4 triple, because we've got every other digit either paired off or actually identified in column 4 already. So if this is 2, 3, 4... there's a 5 in one of those 2 cells. And do we know anything about what's going on in box 2 now? Do I know what that digit is? Well, yes, I do. That digit can't be green, because it would be greater than its connected neighbour, which is shaded. So that's shaded. And that's fine, because that's bigger than 4. There are 5 cells to... Yeah, this is what I'm struggling with here. There are so many... These rules, they have quite different effects on the grid. So there's the connect 4 rule, the fortress rule, and the connect everything... Oh, connect everything. I've not thought about that for a while. Connect everything to everything else. No, everything is connected at the moment. Everything I've put in the grid is connected. So I can't really make use of that, I don't think. How long have I had? 38 minutes. That has flown by. Right. Do I know what this digit is? It's got to be higher than 2. That's not a big restriction. I really want to know if this is shaded, because that would sort these out. What if this was unshaded? Then this would be shaded, and that would have to be bigger than 5, and it couldn't be 6. Ah, okay, here's a small point. So, whichever one of these is the shaded cell, it's either this one or this one. It's still got to be quite big, because it's at least got to be bigger than 5. It could have to be bigger than 7, but it's at least got to be bigger than 5, and it can't itself be 6. So there is a 7, 8, or a 9 in one of those 2 cells, and that means there's a 7, 8, 9 triple in box 2. So that digit now is a bit restricted, because it has to be It's not 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9, so it's 3 or 4. And that's very annoying indeed, because of course this cell doesn't tell you what this is. Good grief. Okay. Okay. So now we can say what? I don't know where to look. We will look. What about this row? We need 1, 7, 8 and 9 into these cells. So let's put that in. 1, 7, 8, 9. That can't be 7. There's a 1 over here apparently. Why is there a 1 pencil marked into these cells? Oh yeah, because we couldn't put a 1 in those cells in this box. Right, that does make sense. So there's no 1 in those cells. So these are 7, 8 and 9. But I don't know their colours yet. So okay. One of these is quite a high digit. So if this... Well, if that's 1, there's no pressure on this. If this is 1, this has to be 7, 8 or 9, and that has to be higher. So that would be an 8, 9 pair in the row. I've got a feeling I'm missing all sorts of like implications for these funny fortress cells here. That can be 5 because it would be greater than 4. This box needs 6 grey cells, and I've got 1 green cell, so I'm allowed 2 more green cells in this box. Alright, let's think about that then, because I've got to put 2 more greens in this box. Where do they go? I haven't got a clue where they go, but I can tell you approximately where some of them go, because there must be a green in these 2, otherwise I'm going to have a 4 in a row shaded cell in this sequence. And there must be a green in this domino, otherwise I've got 4 in a row there. So there is definitely 1 green in that domino, a 2nd green in this domino, and a 3rd green here. That's all the greens I'm allowed. So that cell and those cells must be shaded. And the interesting one there is this one, which is the low one. These 2 being shaded with massive digits in it doesn't seem exciting, does it? But maybe this one. So if... Wow, what does that mean? So... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, okay. One of these is shaded. And one of them is unshaded, because I need the other unshaded to be here. So this cannot be unshaded. And the reason this can't be unshaded is it's digits, it's the options for this cell are not 1, 2, 3 or 4 or 6, so it's 5, 7, 8 or 9. So if this was 5, 7, 8 or 9, it's definitely bigger than that. So that cannot work. So that's shaded. Therefore this is unshaded to stop the 4 in a row. Oh, this is gorgeous. Now I've got 3 in a row here. So these 2 have got to be unshaded to stop 4 in a row along the bottom. That one's the interesting one, of course, isn't it? Because this digit has to be lower than a maximum of 4. So this has to be 1, 2 or 3, and it can't be 1 or 3. That's a 2. That's a 2. So that's not a 2. Right. Okay, so now one of these is shaded and next to an unshaded cell, because we know there's an unshaded in these 2 cells. So hang on. Do I therefore, or should I be able to know which way round this goes? if... Oh, hang on. I've also... the other problem I've got is this cell, of course. Yes, I see. Right, look. This digit... Oh, in fact, this digit has to be lower than 6. Oh, so the only thing this can be is 5. That's the simple way of doing that. It can't be 7, 8 or 9, so this must be 7, 8 or 9. But it can't... Oh, it can't be 7. So that's a 7 by Sudoku. This is an 8, 9 pair. But this digit can't be shaded now because it would be next to a higher digit. So that's unshaded, which means this is shaded. Now, if this is unshaded, it cannot be anything other than 2, can it? No, because if it's anything other than 2, it's going to have a 2 in one of those in a shaded cell next to it. So that's the 2. This is a 3 or a 4. This is incredibly clever. It's the whole thing is absolutely brilliant. And it's like little puzzles. It's like that puzzle I did. Who was that by? Was it Analytical Ninja? Where I had it was 10 puzzles. Because each little 3x3 box was its own little puzzle. That's what I feel like I'm doing here, is little puzzles one by one. 2, therefore, has to be in these cells. 7 has to be in these cells by Sudoku. Right, and here we've got a 7, which is really important because... I've got one unshaded cell there. Well, that domino's got to have an unshaded cell in it. Otherwise, we've got 4 greys in a row. So that's going to be the second unshaded cell in this box. So the whole of the rest of the box, all of those cells have to be shaded. And that means... I'm trying to see what that means. I'm sure it means something. That means that... Ah, that's so beautiful. Right, how is that connecting to the rest of the greys in the grid? Well, if this isn't if that's unshaded, it never can do. We've created an island, so that's got to be shaded, which means that's got to be unshaded. So that's the... I want to say that's got to be a 1. Oh no, it can't be a 1. Oh, good grief, have I broken this? Oh no. Oh no, it's okay. It's okay, because the 1... Oh, in fact, it's better than that. It's actually forcing. Where does the 1 go in this box? By Sudoku, it's not in those cells. It can never go orthogonally next to a green cell, so it can't go there, because that would have to be a 0. It can't be there, because that would have to be a 0. So it has to go there, where it's safe and secure, surrounded by its grey friends. So, what does that mean? I've not got a clue. I'm sure it means something very profound, though. It must mean that... Does this now have to be a 3? It probably does. If this... Actually, maybe it doesn't have to be a 3, because that could be the 3, couldn't it? And then that would be fine. It's next to a 2 unshaded. Could that be a 3? No, that couldn't be a 3, because that would have to be higher than it. Right, so maybe there's something to do with where 3 goes in this box. That cannot be a 3. So 3 is in one of those 2 cells. Maybe that's the point. Which means 3 is in one of those 3 cells. Oh, I tell you something I've just noticed. Where does that little tetromino connect to its friends? How does it connect to its friends? It's got to come through there, look. Ah, right, that's interesting. I've only got 3 grey cells to play with in this box. Yet I've got to connect this to something in this box orthogonally, so it's got to come through there. Both of those cells have got to be shaded, and one of these 2 has got to be shaded to connect them up. So all of these are unshaded. Now if all of these are unshaded, that's got to be shaded, because that's 3 greens in a row, so that's shaded. Now, if that's shaded, that's got to be unshaded. Right, that's broken. Right, this is really beautiful. If this is shaded, because I've got 3 shades in a row, that's got to be unshaded. And now I've got to connect this to this somehow, or that. But I've got the only way of doing that is to run up column 9, and that breaks the puzzle, because now I've got all 5 of my shaded cells in box 6, and I can never take this cell, which I need to do. So this is broken. So I think that has to be unshaded, and this has to be shaded. And this has to be greater than 4, and it's not 5 or 6, so that square is definitely not 2. That's a 7, 8, or a 9. Bobbins. Doesn't do anything. We could... How do we do this then? Does that have to be shaded now? If that's unshaded, don't I run... Yeah, if that's unshaded, I run into exactly the same problem again. If that's unshaded, to get this to connect, I've got to run up this column. And again, that's taken all 5 grey cells, and I can never connect here. So that must be shaded, which creates a run of 3, so that's unshaded. That's a run of 3, so that's unshaded. My goodness me. And now, okay, well now let's come onto this box, which we've not thought about at all, but there are grey cells in it, because there are 5 grey cells. And how do they connect to their friends? The only way is through there, so that's got to be grey. That's a 5 grey cells in a sort of W pentomino in box 6, which means that's green. And in order to connect anything in this box to this, we have to go through that little junction. So that's got to be grey. That's a run of 3, so this has got to be green. Oh, go on. We don't know, do we? I don't know what this is. I wish I did. Because if that's green, that's going to create a run of thingy. Oh, hang on. That's got to be grey now. Because we still know there are more greys to come in this box, so that's grey. So do I know what that colour is? If that's green, that's got to be grey, and that's got to be grey. And then I've got to avoid a run of too many... No, that would be fine. That would be fine. Any grey in the top row will avoid a problem here. Okay. All right then. So, what on earth do we do now? We shall argue about... I don't know. Where is... I mean, this is the funny thing about this. Where is the weak spot? That's a 1, apparently, is it? So that's not... Oh, yeah, okay, that's a 1. We've got to put a 1 in that row. Oh, that's beautiful. Right, well, what's that digit now? That's become a massive digit, and it's green. So it can't be 9 because it's next to a grey. So that's got to be 8. That's got to be 9 to be bigger than it. That's not 9 anymore by bigness. These are not 8 anymore by Sudoku. Outrageous of Superrabbit to make me do Sudoku in this Sudoku puzzle. So now what do we know about the world? 9. Oh, okay. 9 is in one of those cells, and bizarrely enough, I think either of those is very, very viable, because even a 9 here is not connected to any greys, so that would be valid. 4 has to be in one of those cells. 4 here. No, that would be okay, wouldn't it? 9 is 9. No, 9 is not somehow restricted. 7 in this box looks like it's got to be in one of those two. 7, 9 here. I don't know what to do again. This is a familiar feeling with this puzzle. Is it this row maybe? 4, 6, 8 and 9. Let's actually put it in and see if we can see what that must mean. 4, 6, 8 and 9. That can't be 4 because of this 4. The 4 here must come out. That can't be 9. Oh, neither can this, because obviously we've got 9 in the box already. So this is 6 or 8, but that's next to 2s, so that's fine. If this was 4, this would have to be 3. I bet that's what's going to happen, and that's how that 3-4 pair there is going to disambiguate. So I don't think I can do that, can I? Right. So what's the trick here? This 7 means that can't be a 7. That's now become an 8 or a 9. So now I've got an 8-9 pair. Oh, this is it. This is it. Right. So how could this be next to a grey cell? It can't be. Because if it's next to a grey cell, we could not make this digit bigger than this one. Because this digit is the only opportunity to have a bigger digit than this in this box. If that was 8, that would be 9. That cannot be higher. So this digit needs to be green, is my contention, which means that digit is grey. Now we know that the grey was necessary to shield the 1 in one of these cells, wasn't it? So that must be the 1, that must be the 6, this must be a grey to shield the 1 from the naughtiness that would otherwise engulf it. This cell is now green in order to make sure we've got the correct count in this box of 1 grey cell. So this 6 is greater, well, that's a 5, because it's got to be greater than this digit, and it sees 1, 2, 3 and 4 in the column. So that's a 5. Oh, that does not. Well, oh no, hang on, that does do something down here, look. Because now 5 has to be in the same 2 positions as 3, so that's a 3-5 pair, which means this is 4, 6 or 8, and it's not 4 or 6, that's got to be an 8, I think, by Sudoku. So that's 8, that's 6, that's 4. The 4 has to be greater than its orthogonal neighbour, so that's 3, that's 5. That disambiguates the 3 and the 4 just as we suspected. This 8 sees that cell, that becomes a 7. So what are those 2 squares? 2 and 5, are they? Well, if they are 2 and 5, there's a 5 there, so that tells us the order. 5 and 2 go in. The 2 puts no pressure on the greys around it, but never mind. The 5 is greater than the 3, so that still looks like we haven't made a ricket just yet. Now, those squares cannot be 6 or 4, look. So these are an 8-9 pair. What about these digits then? These have got to be 1, 4 and 6, I think. That's not 4. Okay. I've got an 8-9 pair here. So what are these digits? 3, 4 and 7. And that can't be 7 because it would be greater than its shaded neighbour. So the 7 goes at the top, which is greater than the 5. The 3 and the 4, we can't, well, it's sort of like a mini thermo, isn't it? We've got to make sure the 4 is bigger because of the fortress rule. So that's 4, that's 3. Now this column, look, has not had 7, it's not had 7 in it. It's got to have a 7 there. So that's got to be a 9 at the top. And now, presumably, we might be able to get that digit, is what I'm thinking, which I'm probably now going to be proved wrong about, and it will just show how useless I am at working out how this puzzle works. 2, 5, 6, and 9. 2, 5, 6, and 9. 2, 5, 6, and 9. Now, that can't be 5, and it can't be 9, so that's 2 or 6. It's probably 2, isn't it? That cannot be 2, because that cannot be 1. That cannot be 2, because that cannot be lower. That cannot be 2, because that cannot be lower. So that is 2. So at least on one occasion, I was not totally misleading myself. 5 goes here by Sudoku. So this is a 6-9 pair, which apparently is not resolved. But Now I know what those digits are. They are 3, 4 and 6, which makes that a 4 by Sudoku. So this is a 3, 6 pair. We might get a 3 in the corner. Fingers crossed for our REM. If so, that's 2, 7 and 8. Now, what do we know about this? Well, that cell is interesting, because if that's 6, that will be lower than the 7 or the 8. So that's 9, that's 6, that's 9, that's 8. So that's 8, that's 8, that's 9, and that's 9. And that's 7. Okay. No, I was about to make this a 1. That's totally the wrong way round to think about the greens and the greys. What about those two digits? We can presumably get these. 3 and something. 3 and 8. Yeah, okay, we can. 3 must go there by Sudoku, but indeed, this had to be greater than that anyway, so that's how we could have done that a different way. 3 is in one of those two cells. Can it really be here? This cell would have to be 1 or 2, which actually it could be. Okay, so that's not how to do that. Right, what about those digits then? We can't put the 1 here, because that's next to a green. So these squares are 1, 2 and 6. Now, can that really be 2? That would have to be 1. And that would be 6. Oh, maybe that works. Oh, good grief. Right. What on earth have I not thought about here then? Is it going to be... Oh, it could be Aqre rules again, couldn't it? I've still got to put more greys in this box. Ah, I've got 3 in a row here, so that's got to be grey. Is that somehow important? I've got 2 more greys to fit into this box. I've got to have a grey in the top row. Ah, okay. I've got to have a grey in the top row, because otherwise that's 4 in a row. Is that my phone buzzing? No, it's okay. I've got to have a grey here. Otherwise that's 4 greens in a row. And I've got to have a grey in one of those two, otherwise that's 4 greens in a row. So there must be a grey in one of those two positions. Don't really have a go. If I just pencil mark, you know, if I do that, that's not really going to help me, is it? Maybe I'll just highlight it like that for the moment. There is exactly 1 grey in blue and exactly 1 grey in purple. Okay, what about these digits? Maybe Sudoku. 3s, 6s and 9s. That cannot be 3. So that's 6 or 9, which would be greater than 5, so that's not going to tell us the colour of this digit. What about this row then? We need 1, 2, 7 and 8. I don't know if that's going to be useful. Let's check. We can't have 1 next to a green. If this was 8, it would be greater than that, so that doesn't work. If that's 7, that could be 9, that could be 8, so that would probably work. That can't be 2. Oh no, I'm getting stuck here, aren't I? This is not good. Oh, goodness, I mean, it's virtually done as well. This is worrying. So is there something more we can do with the shading in this box then? Oh, for goodness sake, right, that can't be shaded. Because if that's shaded, to connect that shaded cell with the rest of the shaded world, this would also be shaded, and that would prevent me putting a shaded cell in purple. So that is definitely green. So what does that mean? Nothing. It doesn't mean anything. Oh, goodness. Is that really true? I don't know. I don't know that that does mean anything. Okay, so I think I've got to focus more on... Do I have to pencil mark all of these? 2, 3, 4, 6 and 8. Maybe. Let's do that. 2, 3, 4, 6 and 8. Now that one I can see can't be 3 or 8. This one can't be 4. And that one can't be 2 or 3. So, is there something we can do with... Ah, I've just spotted something. Look at this. That cannot be 6, can it? Because it would be greater than 5. So that's 3. That's 6. So this... Ah, okay. So this is not 3. That seems to indicate this has to be a 3 by Sudoku. That's true. So now... Now what have we got going on? I've got a 6-9 pair. I've got 6 isn't in those cells anymore. And I've got a 3 here that does nothing for me. Ah, it's still not... Is it not... Well, can that... No, that can be 7 because that could still be 9 and that could be 8. Oh, no! No! You rotten thing! Okay, so if this was 8, it would always be great. If that were, okay, what about if that was 1? If that was 1, we'd know it would have to be green. If that's 1, it's green. This would be grey. And then that would have to be grey because it would have to be... We couldn't connect this to this. So we get a T pentomino. And that would be green. Oh, I see. No, right. No. Forget all that. Forget all that. Look at that domino. This cell is always bigger than this one. Because even if I max this out at 4, that's going to be 8. And if this is 2, whether this is 4 or 8, it's bigger. So this is so in this domino, it's not possible for this cell to be the green one. That one has to be the grey one. That is really lovely, and therefore that's the green one. And this hasn't connected to anything, so that's got to be grey. Good grief. And we get a sort of inverted W here to go with this W here. So now... Well, now we've done the Aqre part of the puzzle, but what we haven't done... Well, now this can't be 1, because if that's 1, it's next to a green digit, so that's not 1. So in this box now, it looks like that's got to be the 1, which means that's a 6, that's a 6, that's a 9. So we can take 6 out of here, 6 out of those two. And that means, he says, desperately trying to work out what that means. 9 here gives me a 9 here, and that gives me an 8 here. So that's become a 2. Therefore, this has to be lower than 2 and has to be 1. That's a 6. I didn't get a 3 in the corner, you rotten thing. That's a 1, that's a 4. That's a 2 now. That's a 2, that's an 8. So this is a 4. That's a 7, that's a 9, that's an 8, and if I've not made a mistake, that's a 7. Good grief, what a puzzle. That's taken me ages. 1 hour, 9 minutes. But that was just pure magic, wasn't it? Start to finish. I loved that. It was so clever. Now, but I'm very unsure that I've got it right. So I need to just think about this for a moment. I'm just going to stare at the grid and try and spot runs of 4 in any direction. I'm not seeing any of those in green or in shaded grey. Now what else? I need to make sure everything shaded is greater. Ooh, that almost looked tricky, didn't it? Everything grey is greater than its orthogonal neighbours. I'm not seeing any problem with that. 8 and 9 there. Looked a bit scary for a moment, but I think that's okay. And I've got to make sure that all the greys are connected. Well, they are. So if I click tick, it says it's okay. So the Sudoku is okay. So I think this is the correct solution to Superrabbit's puzzle. That was fabulous. Start to finish. My goodness me, Superrabbit, take a bow. A stellar debut. Let me know in the comments how you got on with this. I'd be very interested to hear whether there were some tricks and techniques I could have used to do it with a bit more efficiency perhaps, but I mean, I loved the logic, and as I said, it felt very much like you had to go, you know, 3 by 3 blocks at a time, which I really enjoyed. So thanks for watching. We'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.